Hello, I'm Representative Tammy Green.
And I'm Judy Harris, a home care worker and member of SEIU Healthcare 775 Northwest.
Welcome to the 3-Minute Lobbyist. In this video, you'll learn how you can make a real difference for long-term care workers, your clients, and residents across Washington by talking with your legislators about what is important to you and other members of SEIU Healthcare 775 Northwest. You can learn how to get your message across in just a few minutes.
When we meet with our legislators to share our stories and our clients' stories, it helps them understand how important the care we provide is to our community and our state. It's important for SEIU members to meet directly with legislators.
Remember, there is no one who can do a better job of explaining what's important to caregivers than you.
This video will explain what to do when meeting with your legislator.
You'll see an example of SEIU members meeting with a legislator, me in this case, to talk about funding for long-term care, which is often what you'll come to Olympia to talk about, although sometimes you'll go over a specific bill.
Your specific group will be made up of caregivers and clients from your district. Before meeting with your legislator, you will get together with your entire group to make a plan. The most important thing is to divide up speaking roles and go over what you'll be talking about. Gail, would you want to do the introductions?
Oh, absolutely. I can do that.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to talk about the problems that these cuts are going to cause to our clients. And Chris, would you want to talk about the solutions?
Definitely. The solution would be to close the corporate tax loopholes. But I do have a question.
Yes.
How are they doing these deep cuts to the seniors and the people with disabilities?
Well, the latest information that we've gotten is that they plan on cutting an average of 10%.
Once you've made a plan for the meeting, it's time to go. When meeting with your legislator, remember to introduce yourself, explain the problem, offer a solution, ask for their support, give them time to answer, thank the legislator for their time, and leave any reading material you have for them. Let's start with the introduction.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are
Come
you?
on in, you're right on time.
Thank you so much.
The first thing to do when you arrive is to introduce yourself and everyone else in your group. When you introduce yourself, you want to say your name and something about the person that you care for. Be sure to tell them where you live. It's important that legislators know you live in their district. And remember, don't use such terms as individual provider or IP or agency provider or AP. Just say you're a home care worker or nursing home worker. Mention that you are a member of SEIU Healthcare 775 Northwest. Then say why you are there. And be sure to address them appropriately. State senators are always addressed as senator, and representatives are addressed as representative, never Mr. or Ms.
Thank you, Representative Green. My name's Gail Breyer. I'm a home care worker. I care for my client who has Down syndrome, and she requires 24-hour care. We're all here from SEIU Healthcare 775 Northwest. This is Judy Harris.
Hello, Representative
She's
Green.
also a home care worker, and this is Chris Batan. She works at Tacoma Rehab.
Oh, okay.
We're all from your district, District
Okay.
28.
Once you've done introductions, it's time to explain the problem. This means you are going to explain the concern that you want the legislator to address. A good way to do this is first explain how the cuts would affect your client, and then explain how the cuts would affect you. Finally, tell the big story of how it affects clients like yours and everyone else in Washington. Let's start with how the cuts would impact your client.
And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Judy.
Well, Representative Green, I want to discuss with you the problems that the cut in hours will cause to our clients. My client is a burn survivor, burnt over 70% of his body. As you know, skin grafts break. Their skin is so fragile. And if we don't clean it properly and put the lotions on and the medications on it, he gets infection in it. I won't have the hours to keep his skin clean and put the ointments in if the hours are cut. He gets infection in it, he ends up in the hospital. If the infection gets bad enough and turns into MRSA, he will end up in a facility for weeks or months, and it will be devastating to him.
Next, relate your story and how the cuts would impact you personally. Remember, this is your opportunity to share your story. Make sure you paint a clear picture for your legislator. Keep your story specific. Let them know how the issue impacts you and your client.
Also, we had cuts last year. We were able to survive those cuts, my family and I. But I don't know what we will do this year if you cut the hours again. It will be very devastating.
Let's put it in a larger context for the whole state.
But the most devastating factor will be to the state of Washington. As I was explaining about my client, multiply that by thousands of people that will end up in the hospitals or the facilities from deteriorating health because of the cuts, and they're not getting the proper health care. The costs that Washington State will incur is going to be phenomenal. Those are some of the things that we wanted to bring up to you while we were here, and I want Chris to tell you what the solutions are that we feel we have.
Once you've explained the problem, it's time to tell your legislator about the solution we recommend. In this case, we're talking about corporate tax loopholes. Be sure to explain why the solution is good for long-term care workers, our clients or residents, and everyone else in Washington State.
Representative Green, I do have a solution. Closing the corporate tax loopholes will create the revenue. I believe they should pay their fair share and not the vulnerables, So closing the tax loopholes will create the revenue you're looking for.
You've told them what we want them to do. Now it's time to ask them to do it. Be clear and specific. Always ask them to respond to specific questions. Give them time to answer. Thank them for their time. And make sure to leave materials behind with them. When we ask our legislators for their support, we are getting their commitment to stand on the side of long-term care. They have heard our stories and our solutions, but that's not enough. This is why it's important to ask them directly if they will stand on our side. Without their commitment, we cannot hold them accountable for the decisions they make while in Olympia.
We have a couple of questions that we'd like to ask you before we leave today. First, can we count on you to reject cuts to long-term care?
Well, as you all are well aware, the budget picture is pretty bleak. You seem pretty educated about that. Everything's on the table right now, to be honest. But for me, I think you're right about making sure that the cuts that we make don't incur other costs. So I am going to be committing to not cutting more in long-term care.
Wow, we really appreciate that. Secondly, will you help us win support from other legislators?
Well, certainly, I believe in what I just said, and your group does a pretty good job of meeting with all of my colleagues, and so I would offer that if you need backup, you need me to go and give a further message or twist somebody's arm, I'm happy to do that.
Oh, wonderful. And finally, will you support raising enough revenue to stop the cuts in these services?
Well, that's a really tough question. You remember in the recent election we had a 2/3 initiative pass, so it takes a 2/3 majority to pass any revenue. That's a very high bar to reach. It's difficult to get there, but if we can get to that bar, I'm certainly willing to make that vote.
Well, we really appreciate your time this afternoon, taking time out of your schedule to meet with us today.
Well, I'd like to leave with you. It's one of our flyers. It explains a little bit about what we've talked about here today. And we do appreciate so much your support and taking the time to talk with us
Well,
today.
and I appreciate you making the trip down. I know that it takes time for you out of your busy schedules and taking time away from your clients to come, and I really appreciate it. It's important for me to hear from the people in my district.
Thank you
Thank you so much
much.
for coming. Thanks.
After meeting with your legislator, you'll take time to talk with your group about how the meeting went. You'll use the legislative debrief form to record who you met with, who else was there, what the legislator did or did not commit to, and anything else worth noting about your meeting. These debrief forms provide valuable information for our Capitol team.
We have these questions to fill out, and then I think we'll have our debrief done. Can we count on you to reject cuts to long-term care services?
She was very supportive on that one.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, we'll put a yes on that. Will you help us win support from other legislators?
Yes, she was willing to go and talk to other legislators about this issue.
Yeah, and it's going as far as twisting some arm, so that was refreshing.
Yes, it was. The last question. Will you support raising enough revenue to stop the cuts to these services?
Yeah, that's the tough one. It wasn't a yes and it wasn't a no. What else do we have?
We need to get involved other caregivers and get the word out there that we need them to support these budget cuts and be here on People Presence and fight back.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, let's use unsure, wouldn't commit.
Yeah.
Does that sound like?
I think
mean,
that's
that's the
fair,
only
yeah.
other one left. Okay. Well, we've gotten our debrief form done, and I think we've had a long, busy day. Very productive, though, I think, with
Yes.
Representative Green, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, she's definitely a people person. So.
Yes, she is. All right. Well,
Okay.
shall we head for home?
I'm
Sure.
ready.
Okay.
All right.
It's important for SEIU members to stand up for seniors and people with disabilities, your clients and residents.
And meeting with our legislators is one of the best ways we can do that. It's easy to do, and they really want to hear from us.